Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished visitors, honorable ministers and members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, I rise to give you the toast of our visitors. We are celebrating tomorrow the 10th anniversary of the freedom we regained in 1948. We felt that on this occasion we would like to have celebrations on a somewhat more extended scale than usual. The problem then arose as to whom we should invite to this 10th anniversary. We have many friends, fortunately, among so many countries of the world, that if we invited them all, it might have been perhaps a worse infliction than the floods from which we suffered a month ago. We were very anxious to invite them all. It was hardly possible to do so. And we decided, therefore, to invite representatives from our fellow Commonwealth countries. That number also is increasing apace, you know, but not quite unmanageable yet. It is reasonably small. And that is why we invited representatives from our brother or sister Commonwealth countries. It is a matter of great gratification to all of us in Ceylon that the other Commonwealth countries so readily and so kindly responded to our invitation. And our guests are with us today. When I was in Delhi about a month ago, I reminded the Vice President, Dr. Radhakrishnan, that a visit to us was very much overdue. He had not been in Ceylon for well nigh 13 or 14 years. Last visit was somewhere in 1945. Certainly not after we became free or India became free. Well, Dr. Radhakrishnan told me that he would like very much to come to Ceylon, but only on one condition: that we do not have too tiring a program of function after function for him. I said, of course, yes, that we will be even prepared to go to that extreme length in order to have the honor of his presence amongst us. I'm very glad that the Vice President has been able to come here. Yesterday I had the privilege of saying a few words of thanks to Dr. Radhakrishnan when he was kind enough to deliver an address under the auspices the Ramakrishna Mission and the Vivekananda Society. I said I thanked him on that occasion in one of his capacities, that of a great scholar and a philosopher. Today we welcome him primarily as the Vice President of a great country, of a neighboring country of ours, one which is playing an important part not only in the affairs of Asia, but I think I may say also of the world. May I, on behalf of all of you, extend a very cordial welcome to Dr. Radhakrishnan and thank him for coming to us, and the Prime Minister of India for agreeing to this visit of the Vice President on this 10th anniversary of our freedom. Then we come to our baby in the Commonwealth of Nations, the Federation of Malaya. As you know, I had the honor of representing Ceylon at the independence celebrations. Recently, the inauguration of the Federation of Malaya. We sent an invitation to Tunku Abdul Rahman, Vice President of the Federation, and although I know how difficult it is for Prime Ministers to come on these visits, it's a great pleasure indeed that the Tunku himself has been able to come to our celebrations, and on behalf of all of you, I extend a most cordial welcome to Tunku Abdul Rahman. He presented me with 2 Malayan crisp knives this morning. I don't know whether it was a gift of peace or of war, but I assure you that I would not put them to any evil purpose beyond that of providing such a symbol of the friendship of Malaya for ourselves. Pakistan has sent us the Honorable Mr. Ali, who perhaps sets an example to us by holding what in Ceylon would be 3 portfolios with 3 different ministers. He's Minister of Labour, he's Minister of Information, Minister of Works, Minister of Information and Broadcast, and Minority Affairs. We are very happy indeed that he is with us. We extend to him also a cordial welcome. There is with us also the Speaker of the Australian Parliament, Honourable Mr. Macleay. We welcome him very much because the most cordial and friendly relations have existed between Australia and Ceylon for many years. We all remember that even during the last war, when we were in difficulties over food, Australia came to our assistance with flour and other commodities. It's very generous at a time when they are no doubt very busy, the government of Australia to have agreed to send to us a speaker, and I welcome him on your behalf. I hope he won't make a gift of us of a bucking horse or a bucking mare, which is one of the specialities of Australia. I had the misfortune of getting on riding one when I was in Australia about 20 years ago. It's a rather interesting but not a very comfortable experience. We welcome Mr. Macleay, Mrs. Macleay also, who has As you know, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was with us a few weeks ago, Mr. Macmillan. And I asked Mr. Macmillan whom he was going to send for our celebration. He said, well, you know, Prime Minister, it's a busy time in England for the ministers and others. But I said, surely you can find somebody. He said, oh, well, I might be able to send you a peer. And here is the Marquis of Lansdowne. Not that peers, are as idle as they are assumed to be very often. You know the story, of course, the gentleman who dreamt that he was making a speech in the House of Lords. And then he woke up and to his surprise he found he was making a speech. There is some such story. We are very glad indeed that the Marquis of Lansdowne, who is the junior minister to Lord Hume, who, as you know, is our Commonwealth Relations Minister. I think many of you have met Lord Hume on your visits to England. I believe this is the first visit of Lord Lansdowne to us, and we are very pleased indeed to have him with us, and on your behalf, I extend to him a most cordial and warm welcome. Canada is another good friend of ours, very helpful to us on many occasions. As you know, and you remember too, all our friends have been helping us in the recent flood difficulties which we experienced. All our friends have helped us. Canada has also given us very considerable assistance. It is not possible for a minister to come all the way from Canada. I see that Mr. Diefenbacher is going to have another election in March. So one can well imagine that ministers are very busy, as we all know what elections mean, especially when they are around the corner. Mr. Ronning, who is the representative of Canada at New Delhi, is with us, and I extend to him most cordial welcome on behalf of Ceylon, which is a very friendly country. Ghana has sent us 2 ministers. Now, I have a bone to pick with my good friends from Ghana. Somewhat like the story of the Ramayana, somewhat in a reverse way, the ministers of Ghana seem to have won the hearts of all our young ladies. From Pasyala to Peradeniya. We are very glad indeed to have them with us, and very pleased particularly as the new free state of Ghana is probably a symbol of freedom to many countries in that region. South Africa has sent us their representative in Australia. And one of the nice things, I suppose, about the Commonwealth, we may have certain differences, but yet we preserve friendships too. We welcome very greatly the gesture of the government of South Africa in asking Mr. Hamilton to come here for our celebration. New Zealand also has sent us as their representative, Mr. Hon.SWRD. New Zealand too is a country with whom we have had many trade and other connections for many years, and on behalf of all of us, we extend a cordial welcome to the representative from New Zealand. I do not wish to make a lengthy speech on this occasion at all, especially as some of us, I think the Vice President, is looking fixedly at that clock right in front of him. That's rather fast, sir. That is rather fast. As he and I both have to proceed to another engagement in a short time. May I say that this is a gathering which is perhaps somewhat more useful than the presence of a number of individuals for a celebration. So many things have been said about the Commonwealth. I do not want to take up your time about it. There are people who say, well, why should we remain in the Commonwealth? There are others who feel we should. Certainly one thing is clear, that all of us have remained in the Commonwealth up to date, last 10 years. The Commonwealth is not an ordeal or an imposition, in fact, upon any country that is in the Commonwealth. We all have our freedom, full freedom of internal as well as external action. We meet as friends, we discuss matters, we do not come to any binding agreements where a majority vote have to bind a minority. Very useful discussions, very helpful to each other, without any kind of chains or bonds or rules or regulations. We are quite free to follow our own policies, whether it be in internal or external affairs. As I've said on more than one occasion earlier, there is certainly one thing that is useful that we all share in common, namely a certain democratic parliamentary way of life. That is very important. We may have variations of it, but the spirit of it is very important, and I think very valuable. And I also think, if I may be permitted to say so, something that is worth preserving, adapted if necessary in detail to meet the needs of each separate country, but in its essential spirit something well worth preserving. That we all do share. We are very happy indeed that all our brother Commonwealth countries have been able to send to us their representatives. And I would ask you, members, Ceylon Parliament, House of Representatives, kindly to be upstanding and drink to the health of our distinguished guests. And with that toast, I would associate the names of the Vice President of India, Dr. Radhakrishnan, of the Prime Minister of Malaya, Honorable Tunku Abdul Rahman, the Honorable John McLean, the Speaker of the Australian Parliament, and the Marquess of Lansdowne. Before you drink that toast, the toast will be supported by the Leader of the Opposition, Dr. N.M. Pereira, and thereafter we shall drink it. Unless, of course, we like to drink it twice, we don't mind drinking it many times. I will ask Dr. Pereira to support that toast before we actually drink it.